Exactly 2 years ago, we held Grad Slam finals, crowned a champion, and walked forward into a future like no other. We've all experienced the ups and downs of an era changed right out from under us. The challenges of uncertainty and loss, and the sheer courage and strength it takes to keep moving forward through what has been a true test for all of us. But here we are. Grad Slam is back, and so are we. Campus is open again and in motion again, and I am extraordinarily proud to share with you that through it all, our grad students never gave up. They never gave in, and they never quit. They remained steadfast in their mission to continue their research to find the next cure, the next solution, the answer to the equation, so that society, all of us, could continue to thrive. Tonight, we take another step forward, a small step closer to being all together once again. In the spirit of our tenacious graduate student body who worked hard to stay in the game, you'll hear from 10 outstanding finalists who worked hard for their chance to become the next UCI Grad Slam champion. Make no mistake, like the last 2 years, this is no easy task. They'll have to wow a dynamic panel of judges representing a variety of industries and backgrounds. And they'll have to do what so few of us have done in quite some time. They'll pitch live, on stage, and on camera to you, viewing online. Can they do it?
We can do it.
We can do it. Of course we can do it.
Last year, the world left us no choice but to rethink what a 3-minute pitch competition could look like in a virtual environment. Not known to shy away from a challenge, we brought you our vision of what a totally remote Grad Slam could be. From the depths of remote work and study, we introduced you to 10 of UCI's finest graduate students. Got to know them as both people and scholars, and they brought you their best pitches. We also brought back some special guests who happen to be very familiar with the Grad Slam stage. Like the times we are living in, we continue to evolve to meet the moment. As we begin competition in our 8th Grad Slam, we welcome you back for what promises to be another special event that will keep you on the edge of your seat and leave you hopeful for the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Our finalists are assembled and ready to bring you their best.
I'm ready. Let's do this. Are you ready, Dean Hayes?
Oh, you bet I'm ready. 10 finalists, 3 minutes to make one outstanding impression. The stakes are high because when it's all over, there can be only one champion. So the only question left is, are you ready? This is Grad Slam.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2022 UCI Grad Slam Finals. My name is Bree McWhorter, and I'm the founder of Activate to Captivate and the speech coach for this event. And I am thrilled to be your host this evening. Whether you are experiencing Grad Slam for the first time or are coming back for more, tonight you are in for a treat. I am honored to begin by introducing the Vice Provost for Graduate Education, Dean of the Graduate Division, and Kleist Professor of Informatics, Jillian Hayes.
Good evening. I'm honored to welcome you to one of my favorite events of the year. Every year, I am completely blown away at both the amazing research our students are undertaking across this whole campus, as well as their outstanding talent, as you get to see tonight. What you're about to see is no easy task, not simply because they are presenting in our maximized hybrid format, but also these finalists have jumped some very high hurdles to make it this far and have been preparing extensively to be competitive this evening. So for those of you who are new to Grad Slam, here are some fun facts. So as you heard on the promo video, this is our 8th annual Grad Slam competition, both at the system-wide level, so all the UCs, and here at UCI. Locally, this means that we enjoy a small but growing number of alumni of this special event. I will also note that UCI claimed victory in the very first UC-wide Grad Slam competition in 2015. That year, Ashley Fong won it with her presentation, Stem Cells, How to Mend a Broken Heart. The winner of tonight's competition will get to represent UCI in this year's UC System-Wide Grad Slam Finals on May 6th. You can mark your calendars now. We really hope you'll return to support our champion for that event. The UC System-Wide Grad Slam competition was created years ago during a Council of Graduate Deans meeting in collaboration with the UC Office of the President. It was based upon a competition model used down under in Australia within their university system. And the focus of the competition was to stress the importance of giving an elevator pitch when it comes to presenting your research. We're academics, we're not used to doing that. But the current and main goal of our competition is to make sure that all of our students leave their graduate programs feeling comfortable talking about their research and being able to explain why it is important in terms that anyone can understand. With that in mind, I am confident that no matter who in your household has gathered around your monitor, your TV screen, your iPad, everyone is going to be able to watch and enjoy tonight's presentation. I'm also thrilled to welcome so many of you back virtually as we return to a live Grad Slam here at Applied Innovation with our small audience. It's a small step for us to be together, but it's a meaningful step forward, and we are so excited to share it with you. To all of our finalists here in the audience, I know I speak for all of us when I say that UCI is so proud of you and how far you have already come. I have no doubt that you are going to shine brightly this evening. Trust your preparation. Wow us, educate us. We are so excited to hear from you. So Bree is going to get us moving this evening by telling us a little bit more about the event and introducing us to some very important guests.
Thank you, Dean Hayes. It is a real joy to be back in person. And this evening, we will get to know each of our finalists outside of their scholarly work and hear their pitches live. But first, let's meet the group of people who have the challenging task of judging tonight's competition. Our distinguished panel of judges spans industries and disciplines and bring a great comprehensive perspective to the Grad Slam arena. First, we have Melissa Beck, President of Anonymous Philanthropy and President of the Board of the UCI Alumni Association. Next, Doug Freeman, Executive Chair and CEO of Orange County Music and Dance. Introducing Juan Calgagno, Managing Director at MUFG Americas. Meet Bruce Chapman, CPA, CFO consultant. Let's welcome Lilith Davitan, CEO and CFO at Finexa. Next up, Harry Beck, Senior Vice President at Cake Software. And rounding out our judges panel, Lance Holman, President and CEO at Holman Capital. Welcome, judges. You undoubtedly have a very difficult job tonight. And now you know there are some people we just can't have a Grad Slam without. Our finalists and our judges. And yet, as Dean Hayes shared, Grad Slam now enjoys a small community of alumni who have graced this stage. And this evening, I'm excited to introduce a very special member of that community to you. Now, 2 years ago, a Grad Slam champion was crowned on this stage, and then 2 weeks later, California and much of the country was in a rather unexpected quarantine. And due to the restrictions that ensued, there would be no 2020 system-wide event, leaving that UCI championship the unexpected endgame. As such, this UCI Grad Slam champion holds a special place in our winner's circle, and we are thrilled she is here with us tonight as our special guest. It is with great pride that I introduce the 2020 UCI Grad Slam champion, Dr. Rebecca Riley.
Thank you, Bree, and thank you, Dean Hayes, for welcoming me back for another UCI Grad Slam event. It's always such a fabulous experience to be a part of, and I'm so honored to be joining you here this evening. Though I gotta admit, it is much less stressful on this side of it all. While it's been a roller coaster of a couple of years, I have so many great memories of my time on this stage, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with you about it tonight, Dean Hayes. But right now, we have business at hand. This is a competition, and that means there are some important rules that all Grad Slam participants will be judged on this evening. Tonight, judges will be scoring finalist pitches according to UCOP's rubric and guidelines as follows. The judges at the system-wide finals won't be academics, but rather influential citizens. Therefore, tonight's presentations should not be judged solely on academic merit, but on the significance of the research and the skill of the presenter to inform and engage the audience. Jargon is discouraged in favor of understandability. Finalists may, but are not required, to use up to 3 PowerPoint slides in their presentation. Finalists who choose not to use slides should not have that automatically held against them. Each presentation is timed, counting down from 3 minutes. Points will be deducted from the presenter's score for time over 3 minutes and 2 seconds. After each presentation, judges will be given a few minutes to score the presentation using the rubric. We'll all have the delightful opportunity to get to know each of the finalists a little bit better through interviews and a brief chat they'll be having with our host, Bree, while the judges complete their scoring. But remember, it's only the pitch that the finalists are being judged on tonight. At the end of the competition, the final scores are tabulated, reviewed, and confirmed in order for a champion and 2 runners-up to be determined.
Rules that our judges panel will be minding, and in Grad Slam, with great effort comes great reward.
That's right, Bree. All of our finalists tonight will receive a $300 prize. Tonight's second runner-up, third place, will receive $2,000. The first runner-up will receive $3,000. And finally, tonight's winner, the UCI Grad Slam champion, will receive $6,000. Telling you finalists, you've all already won tonight. Our Grad Slam champion will also go on to represent UCI in the UC system-wide Grad Slam competition on May the 6th. It all leads up to this May 6th event, which is the final showdown in which all 10 UC campus champions will compete for the highly coveted title of UC Grad Slam champion, and of course, the Slammy.
There's a lot on the line tonight. And Rebecca, I'm sure you know this moment very, very well.
Oh, I do, Bree, and you're right. It is a lot. So I just want to take a moment to encourage everyone to reflect on one thing before we begin. From those of you joining us at home, to our judges, and of course, to all of our wonderful finalists. Let's remember that while Grad Slam may test your skill, it's also a wonderful celebration of the promise of graduate education. Moreover, it's also a really exciting peek into a future world that we get to experience, even just for 3 minutes. This is the razor's edge of research in a variety of disciplines whose work will crisscross society. We are about to embark on a journey through some of the best up-and-coming research that UCI has to offer through some of the most talented scholars preparing to launch.
Absolutely. And what a great reminder to us all, and very beautifully said. Grad Slam is a brilliant departure from the everyday, and we really don't get a lot of moments like this. So before we dive into the competition, do you have any final words of wisdom you'd like to offer as a past champion?
Yes, I do. To the finalist, you're about to lay it all on the line in competition. I know how hard that is. I've sat in your seat, walked this path, and I am rooting for your success this evening. I know what you're feeling. I understand the nerves, but take a deep breath and take it all in. For all of the prep and time it took to get to this moment, it'll go by so quickly. You can never tell what the future holds. Trust me on this one. But you do have this moment. You can leave your mark on this space. Sometimes that's all it takes. So whatever you do, relish this moment, have fun, and show us what you got up on the stage. I can't wait. Now, without further ado, Bree, I do believe it's that time.
Thank you for those words, Rebecca. I think everyone here really appreciates it, and I have no doubt that hearing from someone who has been through this is both comforting and just the inspiration our finalists need in this final moment. And you're right, the time has come to step into our competition space. Tonight's competition will take place in 3 stages. First, we'll get to learn a little bit about each finalist as individuals in a short introduction video. Next, the finalist will give their 3-minute pitch. Finally, following each pitch, we'll hear a little more from each finalist in a brief live interview. However, the only portion that is judged and scored is the pitch itself. After all the judging and score tabulating, this all takes place live. And then finally, at the conclusion of the 10th pitch, we'll have a chance to hear more from Dr. Riley and Dean Hayes while the scores are tabulated. And with that, it's time. The 2022 UCI Grad Slam Finals competition begins now. Let's get to know our first finalist, Audrey O'Dwyer from the School of Physical Sciences.
Hi, I'm Audrey O'Dwyer, and I'm a 4th-year student in the Earth System Science PhD program. I grew up in Grand Prairie, Texas. It's a suburb about halfway between Dallas and Fort Worth in North Texas. And one of my favorite things about home is the tacos. I've had some good tacos here, but none quite as good as my favorite place in Dallas called La Paisanita. I started off my undergrad career as a pre-med student, so I was planning on going to med school. I wanted to do space medicine maybe, and then go on and become a doctor. One of the opportunities I thought would prepare me for that is becoming an EMT or an emergency medical technician. My school had a program where we would train for just a semester to get our most basic license. And that's how I found myself as an EMT. I really liked it. And even after I ended up switching majors and switching careers into earth science and academia, I still really liked what I did as an EMT, so I stuck with it for a few years. Now that I live in Orange County, some of my favorite things to do that I didn't get to do much back home are hiking and camping, and I've been on a couple of backpacking trips, so I really enjoy that. I also more locally like to explore and just look for good food, good places to hang out in the sun. The weather's always really nice here. I really like to go out and find new coffee shops. I learned how to use my grandma's sewing machine a few years back, and I found it really challenging because it was really old. Didn't come with a manual. It had a lot of things that were broken and needed replacing, and I'd never used a sewing machine before, so just kind of to start off, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I would say my proudest creation has got to be one of those backpacks. I gave one to my mom, and it didn't hold up for very long, but she used it all the time. So it was fun to see that I made something and she used it pretty much until it fell apart. When I was coming into my senior year as an undergrad, I participated in this program called the NASA Student Airborne Research Program. I worked with 32 other undergrads and some faculty members and some NASA scientists from all around the country. We went on a research flight and collected some data to work on just kind of a general airborne science, earth science program. And the day that I went on my research flight, there happened to be a fire. It was the Sherpa fire in Santa Barbara. So we collected some really interesting data flying through that smoke. I looked at those data, I really liked them. I thought wildfires specifically were really cool to study. And now I'm also really interested in how they affect people, public health, the properties around places that burn, that kind of stuff.
And now, Audrey Audouar and her Grad Slam pitch.
I remember waking up one morning to a soft pinkish glow coming in through the window and to the smell of something on fire. I jumped out of bed and looked out the window, which I had left open to sleep, and I noticed a haze outside and a dusting of ash on my windowsill. Apparently, a wildfire had started overnight, and that smoke must have been coming into my room for hours. What exactly had I been breathing in? It turns out that's a really common question. What exactly is in the smoke that we get during our wildfires? In general, wildfire smoke is made up of gases and particulate matter released by vegetation as it burns. We call these emissions, and they're big contributors to climate change and poor air quality. In California, most of the wildfires we get happen in forests, which are made up of many types of vegetation that can burn, adding fuel to the fire. Different fuels will contribute to emissions differently. To protect the health of our planet and our people, to know which emissions we're getting in our air, we need to know which fuels are burning, and then we can target them. And that's what my work does. Although we can't go out and measure all of the fuels that burn in a wildfire, we can estimate them. I do this by measuring some of the wildfire emissions, specifically PM 2.5, which is a known contributor to global warming. It's responsible for much of the haze we get during our wildfires, and it enters our lungs when we breathe, eventually making its way to our hearts and even our brains. In my work, I collected PM 2.5 from wildfire smoke and measured its chemical composition to understand the fuels that burn to produce it. To do this, I drove this van outfitted with scientific instruments out to the smoke to collect PM 2.5. I would mask up to limit my exposure to these emissions and collect 15 to 20 samples over a few days. I then took these samples back to the lab at UCI where I measured their chemical composition, which I used to estimate the age of the fuel, and from there I can determine the type of the fuel that burned to produce these emissions. Something really interesting I found so far is that in the K&P complex fire, which burned in Sequoia National Park just a few months ago, the burning of woody fuels was the main contributor to emissions. This includes woody debris, things like large branches and dead trees, as well as the trees themselves, including our precious giant sequoias. This is really interesting because over the years we've developed these ideas of California's forests and how they burn. The leaves fall off the trees, they land and build up on the forest floor, and when it gets hot and dry enough, they catch on fire, and this fire spreads. So every year we focus our efforts on cleaning up this leaf litter before the fire season starts. But understanding that woody fuels are actually driving emissions is important because it supports this idea that practices like woody debris removal and tree thinning might be more effective at managing forest fires. Unfortunately, wildfires are becoming more prevalent because the climate conditions for worsening fires have already been set in place. We're experiencing warmer, drier summers that lead to larger, more intense wildfires. But understanding the fuels burning in these wildfires means that we can target them and that we stand a chance at managing just how large and intense these wildfires get and how much they contribute to emissions. Understanding the fuels burning in California's wildfires is key for clearing our air and taking action in the fight against climate change. Thank you.
That was fantastic.
Thank you.
So when you're not doing many of the things that you do, where do you see your future going from here? Is there a specific career path you have in mind?
Nothing specific. I still really like fires and helping people understand how they're affecting society, public health, the environment. I'm really passionate about sharing my love for science with other people. So I definitely like to still be able to do that. Do something where I get to share this expertise that I've been building up over all these years on fires, California, the environment, to help other people and to just kind of keep this going and keep everyone interested in this fight that we're fighting against climate change.
I completely think that it's a valiant effort, including
you.
masking up and going and collecting all of that
Definitely.
stuff. So you seem to have a lot of adventures. Has there been a particular one that has been maybe one of your favorites?
One of my favorites in field work or in just general adventures?
General adventures.
Yeah, I have a really good one. Related to Sequoia National Park, actually. One time camping there, we had a bear enter our campsite. And it's kind of one of those things that everyone tries to prepare for, but it never happens to anyone. You know, you're aware, you carry your bear spray, you use your bear box, but bear
Sure.
got into a tent, stole a backpack, shredded a tent, came back for more, but we were all fine. And I went back to Sequoia to collect some data, so it didn't scar me too badly.
You went back to collect data.
I did.
Of course, yes. So, you know, check bear interaction,
data.
Exactly. Perfect. I love it. So when you're checking off the things on your to-do list, is there something else in your adventure list that you haven't yet been able to do?
Yeah, actually, I still have not gone to drive up the coast. I've been places a little bit farther north from here. I've been through the Central Valley. I've been down south a little bit, but I really want to make sure I get a good drive up that scenic Pacific coast before I graduate.
Is it going to be a solo road trip? You thinking of having, you know, the Grad Slam party?
Yeah, all of us can go.
Yeah, I like
the more
it.
the merrier.
Okay, I like it. I like having goals after the competition, and
Yeah.
it'll be really fun for everyone.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, let's get to know our next finalist, Karma Rose Zavita from the School of Social Ecology.
My name is Karma Rosavita, and I'm a third-year doctoral student earning my PhD in the Criminology, Law, and Society program. The places that I call home are Modesto, California, and Berkeley, California. I had two families that grew up there, so what I miss the most is all of those people and the fun places that we used to go and make memories. If vegan wings, ranch, and buffalo sauce were totally nutritious, it's all I would ever eat for the rest of my life. Don't ask me why, I just love it. I didn't always used to be in the field of criminology, law, and society. Growing up, my grandma was a violin and a fiddle teacher, and that meant that I spent a lot of time in her house. As young as 2 and 3 and 4, I was practicing the fiddle and playing violin quite a lot. And over the years, I got better and better, and eventually won a few contests and used to play in the honor orchestra at much of my schools. Grad school takes a lot of time and energy, so I regret to say that I haven't spent as much time fiddling as I'd love to, but I do have aspirations post-comps and post-dissertation proposal defense to spend more time doing things that I love. As an RA in college, I used to spend a lot of time cleaning the dorms and picking things up after students had gone home for the summer. It was always a shame to see a bunch of things get thrown out, so I did my best to collect what I could and repurpose them, and since then, it's kind of just become something I do. So specifically here in grad housing, there's spaces called karma bins, and when people are moving out, they often leave things for others to take. And what I've loved doing recently is taking things like chairs or tables and sanding them down or reupholstering them to use in my living room or to give to friends and family who don't have those items. In my time serving in AmeriCorps, I got to work with first-generation minority students who were getting into and succeeding through college. And one of the things that I recognize is there's a huge need for mentorship, support, and encouragement of these students both during and after college. When I was in undergrad, I participated in the Inside Out Prison Exchange program, whereby undergrad students pair and work with other students who are incarcerated in attempts to learn more about the criminal justice system. And during my time there, I realized there was so much that I didn't know, which led me to get a master's and now a PhD.
And now, let's hear Karma Rose's Grad Slam pitch.
Content warning, sexual assault. On International Women's Day in 2015, I was sexually assaulted in my college dorm room. And as if that weren't enough, in the few days that followed, I'd have to tell my story again and again and again and again. First, I'd tell the campus safety officer who'd come to my dorm and take a statement. He'd encourage me to open a police report just in case I needed it, and so I'd do that. An hour later, when that officer showed up, he brought with him a forensic team who took photos and gathered my clothes for evidence. And collectively, they would all encourage me to go down to the local hospital to get a safe kit or a rape kit, which I did also. And when I got back to my dorm room and I had a few hours of sleep, I'd wake up the next morning and talk to the Title IX coordinator at my university and open a formal complaint with them. I'd also have to tell my work-study job that I wasn't going to make it to work, and I'd have to find a way to tell my friends and family over the phone what had happened to me. And on top of that, later that evening, I'd get a call from the local detective who said the officer had put my case on his desk and I needed to come in to give a formal statement. I was exhausted. And if you're confused by this chart, I can assure you that it was difficult to navigate this process because on top of all of these conversations and the meetings, there were the phone calls, the text messages, the emails, and the various documents that I had to fill out, much of which I didn't really understand. You see, I was stuck in between two very different systems. This is something that socio-legal scholars call legal pluralism, whereby on one side, I was engaged with formal law, its rigid rules, procedures, formalities, and on the other was a civil rights case, a Title IX process with a university exclusively. And not much is understood about the overlap of these two systems because they're typically engaged with separately. My research aims to really unpack and untangle what's happening in this in-between space. So my goal is to be able to connect and interview and work with victims and survivors primarily, but also all of the various actors, detectives, Title IX coordinators and the like who engage with victims and survivors in these processes. Because the reality is 1 in 4 women are likely to be or engage with some sort of sexual assault by the time they graduate college, which is a significant amount of our young student body. So my goal is that the research I do help to unpack and untangle this process and streamline it so that our young folks can be able to move through and beyond trauma to get back to doing the work they need to be doing in their undergrad education. Thank you.
Thank you, Karma Rose, for, I think, incredibly, incredibly important work, and I appreciate you sharing your story and your efforts here.
Thanks.
So what's next? Where do you see this going in the future, or where do you see your career taking you?
Yeah, so I have just now fully accepted that this is a story that I get to tell. So this stage is really the first time that I'm talking about this. And I recognize that I have a unique position to be able to support folks through research. Yeah. So research is one thing I hope I can continue for sure. But ultimately, I want to teach. I want to be able to support young folks in learning and going through their college careers.
Through teaching?
Yeah.
I completely love that path. It's something I've taken myself, and I think there's a lot of reward in it. So from your video, when it was playing, you talked a little bit about the projects that you do on the side, in addition to all of the other things that you're doing. The repurposing, were you always into this, or is this something new that happened in grad school?
Well, I think I did growing up. We always used to sort of go thrifting and find things. We were pretty resourceful. We didn't have a ton of money, so we found ourselves fixing things however we could. And I actually really like the challenge of finding something that may seem broken or, you know, discarded by someone and making it useful so it just doesn't end up in the landfill. So believe it or not, just recently there was a TV someone left. It was a nice TV. I took it, I cleaned it up, and it's fully functional and in my living room. So
you repurposed a TV too?
Yeah, it's great.
Sure, sure. So on that TV, are you watching anything?
My family is. Hi, fam.
So when you're thinking of relaxing with your new TV and your new chairs, I think a really important question now to ask is there a certain TV show that you tend to binge watch a lot?
Oh my goodness. Recently, it's been The Gilded Age. I used to love the old style movies, so this is catching my attention.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, let's meet our next finalist, Farzana Khatun from the Institute of Transportation Studies.
Hi, my name is Farzana Khatun. I am a 6th-year PhD candidate at Transportation Science program. I was born and raised in Bangladesh, and the thing I miss mostly from my country is my family and friends. And the thing I most mostly about Bangladesh is my undergrad university campus. I have tons of friends over there. I had a very great time during my undergrad. The most adventurous thing that I did is just before the lockdown in January 2020. I was visiting my country, Bangladesh. So my sisters and I decided that let's do something adventurous. So we went to the longest sea beach area in our country, and we decided to do this parasailing and jet ski thing. 3 of us are actually afraid of height and water, so we thought that okay, if we do this thing, that will take take care of our fare. I'm an advocate of climate change and saving wildlife. So I got to know through a friend about an organization that's called Sheldrake Wildlife Trust. And what they do, they rescue endangered wildlife species from poaching. They have this sanctuary in Kenya where they actually take care of this endangered species. And I decided that I'm going to adopt one rhino. I'm an advocate of donation, and that's how I got to know about this effective altruism concept. I'm taking care of the education of an underprivileged children back in my home country, Bangladesh, through an organization called Jago. These kids are very poor and they don't have the means to continue their education. So they need just a bare minimum amount per month. So I'm taking care of that bare minimum amount.
Taking the stage to give her Grad Slam pitch, Farzana Khatun.
California needs to boost up its public transportation system. Why? The answer is simple. To combat around 50% of greenhouse gas emission that's coming from the transportation sector, especially from private vehicles. But unfortunately, public transit system in California is suffering. On top of it, COVID-19 pandemic has made it more miserable. Just to give you one example of Bay Area transit, which always had a solid performance, lost around 94% of its ridership during the pandemic. Now, my curious PhD mind wanted to know what will happen once the pandemic is over. Will Californians stick to their driving pride, or will they abandon transit entirely? This curiosity eventually led me to conduct a survey in May 2021, where I asked 1,000 Californians, what would you do with driving and transit once the pandemic is over? Will you use them less? Will you use them more? Or will you stick to your pre-pandemic travel behavior? It turned out that around 68% of my respondents anticipated no change in their travel behavior. However, 19% expressed that they would prefer to drive less once the pandemic will be over, which is good. But right at this moment, it is not quite sure that this percentage is good enough to offset the other 12% of my respondents who expressed that they would prefer to drive more. Now, the conditions for transit are more grim. 28% of my respondents expressed that they would use transit less, compared to only 5% of my respondents who expressed that they want to use transit more after the pandemic. Now, who are these 28% users that they are not going to use transit anymore? They are predominantly African American, women, younger generation with advanced degree holders, and affluent Californians. And they express that telecommuting preference, driving preference, healthy concerns from the COVID-19, and personal safety at the stations are some of their major reasons for their disinterest towards transit after the pandemic. Now, why we need to know all this stuff? For two reasons. Transit organizations need to identify these users for example, younger generation, and they need to take new ventures, for example, reduced and free transit passes to regain their ridership once the pandemic is over. In this way, transit organization can help California to achieve its social sustainability and environmental sustainability goals. That would be all from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think anyone who lives in Southern California can appreciate efforts to alleviate these concerns.
Yes.
So did you always know that you wanted to go into this type of a field? What started you on this path?
Actually, my experience from 3 different scenarios triggered me that, okay, you should pursue research in transportation. It's back from my country's traffic congestion experience. And I did my master's from UK. So UK have a fine public transportation systems. And then I came here in a car heaven state, California. And then I thought, okay, 3 different experience. Let's not why do something with the transportation. That's how I got into transportation science, and especially with transit.
You put all 3 together and then made this happen.
Yes, exactly.
I love it. So now that you've made it happen, where do you see yourself going from here?
I'm going to graduate pretty soon, next quarter. And I decided 2 options for me. One is postdoc. I'm talking with professors for probable opportunities. And the other thing that I'm looking for is a research position in the industry. So I'm looking for opportunities over there as well.
She's looking for opportunities. Just wanted to echo that in case there was anybody listening.
Bri.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the only other thing that I'm really curious about after watching your video, it seems like you have some fun with your family, fun and doing things that you're all scared of.
Yes.
What's one of your favorite things to do with your family? Is it finding the fearful thing, or is it another adventure entirely?
During the pandemic, I didn't meet them like for the last 2 years, but during the pandemic, I made a promise to myself that I'm continuing FaceTiming with them every day. So that's what I'm doing actually. And I have one elder sister and one younger sister. And we used to like FaceTime all the time. And we talk about like, probably they are seeing this right now from Bangladesh. It's around 7 a.m. over there. So yeah, so I told them, requested them, please do watch it. Because right now in Bangladesh, today is Friday, Bangladesh, it's the holiday. So she was like, my elder sister, oh my gosh, I have to wake up. I said, yes.
Perfect opportunity, the perfect way to spend your morning or evening with us all.
Yes.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Bri.
Now, Muhammad Twaha Ibrahim from the Donald Bren School of Information and Computer Science is our next finalist. Let's get to know him a little more.
Hi, I'm Muhammad Twaha Ibrahim. I'm a 5th-year PhD in computer science. I'm from Pakistan. What I miss most about home is family, friends, the food, and the climate, the culture, everything basically. I love to bake. Everything with chocolate is my favorite. So I love baking brownies, chocolate cake, anything with a spin of chocolate and baking in it, I love that. So one dish that I really want to try is pho. It's something that is so different and unique. So I want to try different types of that and get a sense of what that dish is like. I really enjoy hiking, and one of my best experiences was hiking all the way to Angel's Landing in Zion National Park. I had a flight to Vegas in around 3-4 hours, so I really had to rush up all the way and then come down. I did the round trip in around 2 hours, 15 minutes. Nobody believes that, but that's what I did. Last year, I was a senior peer mentor in the Graduate Interconnect program, which connects current UCI students with incoming international graduate students. One of the most fulfilling moments of being in part of that program was when one of my mentees told me that I inspired them to become a mentor for the next year. That was a really amazing feeling, and I was really happy to be part of that program. So this is my 3rd time applying for the Grad Slam competition and the first time that I made it to the finals. One thing that I've learned is to never give up, to keep working hard, and eventually you will achieve your goals.
And pitch for Muhammad Twaha Ibrahim.
The last 200 years, the world has seen an explosion that have completely reimagined our lives. One major reason for this rapid advancement is that we have understood the importance of making learning easier by creating environments that provide access to expert guidance and support. However, we still need to improve this, especially for surgeons. Because becoming a skilled surgeon requires years of intense training. Trainees work closely with expert surgeons and perform procedures under their guidance to rapidly acquire knowledge and skill. But after training, lack of expert guidance gives rise to an ever-increasing knowledge gap. As surgeons face more complex cases during their practice, this in turn results in increasing medical errors, higher costs to compensate for those errors, because the procedures used are not ideal to handle those complex cases. Now, all of this could be easily avoided if they had access to expert guidance. And that is where my research comes in. Using a projector, camera, and computer vision, we can provide surgeons with access to expert guidance, even beyond school. And here's how. The surgeon sets up the projector and camera to illuminate this example, a face with a cleft lip. With a click of a button, they generate a live digital 3D model of the surgical area. This model gets transmitted to a remote expert who can inspect it and annotate important incisions using a computer or a tablet. These annotations get transmitted back to the projector in real time, which projects them precisely onto the physical surgical area, allowing the surgeon to immediately benefit from the guidance offered by the expert. This creates a collaborative environment for surgeons to guide each other and also to discuss complex cases. Additionally, this technology enables for faster, safer, and easier surgical planning and markings. Instead of using the traditional ink-based markings, which can be quite cumbersome to manage, surgeons now use light-based markings, which are not only sterile, but easy to manipulate and revise. And finally, light-based markings are especially useful for burn patients, where surgeons simply cannot use ink due to the delicate nature of the wound. Remember, every single surgery is unique, so our surgeons can never stop learning. And my research opens up a novel way for surgeons all over the world to connect, collaborate with, and learn from each other, to improve and diversify their skills, and in the process, reimagine surgery for all of us. Thank you. I know.
So I'm so excited to get to talk to you on this stage, especially because I've seen your journey up until this point, and I think you're doing incredible work.
Thank you.
What is next from here?
Well, this research. I'm really passionate about this project. I've been working on it since, since basically from the ground up. So I hope to, continue working on this and how we can use projectors to help our surgeons and really change the way we understand and learn about surgery as well.
I think that's fantastic, and I'm sure there's a lot of surgeons joining us from home who would appreciate it as well.
Yes.
So when you're not reimagining surgery, you talked a little bit about baking and chocolate in particular. When did you start baking? Was this, a really early thing from your life, or what got you into it?
So what got me into it was we used to have one of our friends back in Pakistan. She used to make really good cakes. And one of the first cakes that I had for her, I don't remember the name, but it was a chocolate cake, and that kind of just got me into baking. I burnt my first one, so.
That makes me feel better about my own cooking skills. And so you did also talk a little bit about the mentoring. Is there someone who mentored you that you had a really good impact on your career?
Well, I would say a lot of people. My advisor back in Pakistan, Dr. Rehan Hafiz, he played a very important role in my career. And my advisor, Dr. Aditi Majumdar, she's currently playing that role right now. So yes, absolutely.
I think it's amazing that, that you had that impact on someone else, and then they'll have that impact on someone else. And I really loved hearing about that journey, and I appreciate you sharing it with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, let's meet our next finalist, Rachel Souza from the Center for Complex Biological Systems.
My name is Rachel Souza, and I am a second year in the PhD program in Mathematical, Computational, and Systems Biology. I grew up in Roanoke Park, which is about an hour outside of San Francisco, and there's not too much going on there, just a normal little community. But my cat and dog, Mika and Bruno, definitely made it a little more interesting. They're both big lap animals, so they like to compete for your attention. So if someone's on your lap, the other animal comes up and will try to push the other aside. Since moving to Southern California, I have started paddleboarding and I really enjoy it. I often go with my friends to the Back Bay and we go paddleboarding there. There's some great places to rent paddleboards, so if you're interested in going, you should go and rent some and get out on the water and have some fun. My favorite food is a ribeye steak. I think that it has the perfect ratio of protein to fat, and the fat definitely gives it the extra flavor that makes it the perfect meal. When I started my undergraduate studies, I wanted to be a high school math teacher. But shortly after I started, I was introduced to mathematical biology and have since fallen in love with the subject. And once I graduate from UCI, I hope to continue doing research using mathematics to study disease. I started painting in high school through some art classes, and when the pandemic started, I began to paint a bit more, and I started to paint cards for people for their birthdays or for different holidays. The thing I have painted that I'm the most proud of is a picture of a hummingbird with some flowers for my grandma, as hummingbirds are her favorite animal. On the weekends, I conduct science experiments with the kids at my synagogue, and one of my favorite experiments that I've done with them is to blow up a balloon using vinegar and baking soda. It creates this big reaction that blows up the balloon, and it was fun to see the kids get really excited about science.
I remember sitting in math class during high school and hearing students ask, "Why do we have to learn math? When will we ever use it?" Math has always been my favorite subject, but I will admit that I too questioned how we could use math outside of the classroom. It wasn't until I pursued a degree in mathematics that I fully understood how we could apply math to solve real-world problems. Now, I use math as a tool to understand biological systems. As a mathematical biologist, I aim to build a bridge to connect these seemingly separate worlds of math and biology. I specifically focus on cancer biology, as cancer is one of the leading causes of death worldwide. One promising cancer treatment has been to stimulate a patient's own immune system to better fight their cancer. This is done with drugs called immunotherapies. There are many immunotherapies available, and new ones are constantly being developed. However, certain immunotherapies only work in half of patients, and some patients have bad reactions to immunotherapies. We don't know exactly why this occurs. The human body is a complex system with many different interacting parts that are hard to identify with biological experiments alone. Math provides an ideal framework for studying biological systems by modeling the interacting components in ways that allow us to control and predict different aspects of the system. In my research, I am developing a set of equations, or a mathematical model, that will allow us to explore the complex cancer immune system interactions of the human body and enable us to predict the most effective immunotherapy combinations. Using my model, I can perform virtual experiments where I can study and influence the dynamics and interactions between immune cells and cancer cells. My goal is to use math to identify the key features that distinguish the ability of the immune system to eliminate cancer from those features that allow cancer to evade the immune system and persist in the body. By understanding these differences, I will be able to predict patient responses to immunotherapies and develop new combinations of drugs, doses, and schedules that can optimize treatment response and minimize unwanted side effects. Then, I can work with an experimentalist to test my model predictions in mice. If my model predictions don't match experimental results, then we can fine-tune the model using this new data. On the other hand, when my model predictions match experimental results, then we can use my model to inform human patient treatment. Unlike cancer, math is predictable, and we can use the power of mathematics to better understand the complex biology of the human body. By sharing my research, I hope that if you were one of those students questioning why we have to learn math, you can now begin to see that we can use math in all sorts of ways, including to revolutionize cancer treatment and save millions of lives. Thank you.
Well, I am certainly very glad that you learned math and learned it so well.
Thanks.
You talked a little bit about, various experiments that you've been a part of, with teaching and then doing yourself. When you think back on these experiments, is there one that really means a lot to you?
Are you talking about experiments I do like at my synagogue with the students? Because
Either one.
Because all of my experiments are just done on a computer. It's all virtual simulations.
Then let's talk about the physical ones.
The physical ones, yeah. So with the kids, I've done quite a few fun ones with them. Mm-hmm. Recently, I did one where we made a density tower. And so basically, I will explain, yes. So different liquids are different densities, and the more dense something is, the more it will sink to the bottom of a container. And if if one liquid is less dense than another liquid, then it'll float on top of it. And so we had different liquids like milk, soap, baby oil, baking oil, and I talked to the students, and they tried to figure out which was the most dense and which was the least dense. And if they did it properly, they could get 7 distinct layers on top of each other.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's experiment cake. It's like a layered cake, and then we can have Twaha bring in the chocolate cake, and we can have a whole cake party.
That would be great.
Probably not eat them both though. That would be bad.
Yeah.
So when you're not teaching and you're not doing all of these experiments, is there anything you do for fun, like maybe binge watching certain shows, or are there certain things that you could be found watching?
Yes. Recently, a new season of The Marvelous Miss Maisel came out. I really enjoy watching that. Usually, I watch it with my mom because conveniently it's come out every December, except now, and usually I'm home in December for the holidays. So now we've been watching each of the episodes and then calling each other.
I love that. I love how we've really been able to find different ways to connect to family in new and innovative ways, and I love the fact that we're just going to continue to do that moving forward.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
It's time to get to know our next finalist, Chi Song from the School of Social Ecology.
My name is Chi Song. I'm a 5th year PhD student from the Department of Urban Planning and Public Policy. I came from a city called Taiyuan in China. What I miss the most from my hometown is my families, because I haven't been back for more than 2 years. I really miss them. I was actually a major in more like urban design in my college, but then I find that it is more challenging if there are not supportive policies to support the project. So I decided to pursue my master's study and PhD study in the US because I want to learn more about policy environment in a different political context. I am really good at cooking Chinese food, like Chinese hot pot. So actually I improved my cooking skills a lot during the pandemic because we don't have other options. I want to try to make Chinese noodle by myself because it's quite challenging since it is difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to get the right amount of water and flour to make kind of a perfect Chinese noodle. My husband and I knew each other from high school, but unfortunately we didn't get a chance to study in the same college. To kind of sustain our relationship, we decided to try our best to go to the same university in the US, and I really appreciate his support because it was actually him who encouraged me to study in the US and to support me during my PhD life.
Now let's hear Chi's Grad Slam pitch.
Many of us live in cities, and we have created different types of development to accommodate ourselves in cities. One of the most popular and typical type of development in the US is what we see from the left picture, low-density development with single-family homes. However, this type of development has caused a lot of problems, such as inefficient use of land, dependence on cars, traffic congestions, and greenhouse gas emissions. To address these problems, urban planners have proposed a different type of development that relies on public transit. And it is what we call transit-oriented development, or TOD, as shown in the right picture. TOD is of higher density, and usually it includes a mixture of housing, retail, and office that are integrated into a walkable neighborhood. So if you live in or plan to move to a development like this, you may have this question: is it affordable to live near public transit? And that's where my research comes in. I examine the impact of TOD on affordability. Affordability is typically understood as the cost of housing in the US. Generally, housing costs that are no more than 30% of a household income are considered affordable. However, transportation costs also account for a large amount of our income. In my research, I also consider transportation costs when measuring affordability. So how might TOD affect household affordability? On the one hand, as more people are willing to take the benefits of living near public transit, there will be an increase in the housing and property value, meaning that you may spend more on the housing cost. However, if you take public transit, you can save money of buying and maintaining a car, so less on the transportation cost. But what is the impact of TOD on the combined housing and transportation cost as a whole? To figure this out, I focus on neighborhoods that are located near rail stations along 2 transit corridors in Los Angeles, as shown in this map here. I tracked the household expenditure on the combined housing and transportation costs over time. I found that for a median income household, they need to spend 58% of their income on the combined housing and transportation costs in 2015, which is 7% higher than their 2009 level. In contrast, for a lower income household, they need to spend as much as 69% of their income on housing and transportation. So my research findings will be important for policymakers and planners. As we know more about the impact of TOD on affordability change, we could propose better policies, such as providing affordable housing units near public transit to really help the people who are low income and who need the transit most. Thank you.
Incredible research, very complex, I'm sure. So where do you see this going in the next stages using this information?
I think this presentation here is actually a part of my dissertation. So my dissertation actually focused on how cities could promote equitable development around transit stations. So I'm actually examining existing policies, the efficacy of existing policies, and also propose better policies to help the real disadvantaged populations, like living near public transit stations.
I think that's incredibly important work, and I'm glad that you're doing it. I think it's something we all definitely need. So when you're not doing this complex work, I know you talked a little bit in your video about your family back home. What's the first thing that you might want to do, or one of the first things that you'll do when you go back?
I think I will give them a big hug.
Right. Absolutely. I'm sure they're very proud of you here tonight. And now you can share the video of the amazing research that you do.
Yeah, I think my husband at home is actually recording the video right now.
Good call, good call. Yeah, he seems to be very supportive of you.
Yeah.
So is there something that you really enjoy doing with your husband locally, or what do you enjoy doing here?
I mentioned in my video, I enjoy hiking with him, and also I enjoy cooking. And also there are, I think in Irvine, there are great parks here, like the Great Park, and also a lot of community parks they're really accessible and also fascinating to visit. Yeah,
absolutely. I think we do have a lovely, collection of places to explore here.
Yeah,
a couple of people we've heard enjoy hiking, so maybe additionally, we can also get a hiking trip together, a Grad Slam hiking trip.
Yeah,
bring it all together and celebrate. Well, thank you very, very much for your important work today.
Thank you.
Now, let's get introduced to Desiree Macchia from the School of Medicine.
Hi, my name is Desiree, and I'm a 4th year, and I'm getting a PhD in biomedical sciences. I am adopted, and so that means that I don't know my actual birth date, but just like anyone else here, I celebrated just on a specific day that was actually given to me by the orphanage at random. Since moving to Irvine, I decided to pick up the hobby of running, even though it was very painful at the start. But Irvine is beautiful and there's a lot of trails, and I actually did just complete my first half marathon back at Surf City in Huntington Beach. So I grew up with an American Eskimo back at home, and we spent a lot of time in the park running around. And currently I have 2 puppies that are under 3 years old, and they give us a lot of energy, and I get to take them out all the time, and the perfect weather for it here. Outreach has been one of the most rewarding things I've done in graduate school because it allows me to meet a bunch of other different people that are interested in the same things. I specifically am involved in K through 12 outreach here at with the CNLM, which is the Center for Neurobiology of Learning and Memory. And we do a lot of neuroscience outreach events, especially to schools that are disadvantaged or in low socioeconomic statuses. In addition to DEI efforts, I'm involved in Decade here at UCI, where we put on events for the School of Medicine to allow for camaraderie as well as increasing retention of women and underrepresented minorities within the school. I took a trip overseas right before COVID. We went to like Fiji, Bali, Australia, multiple places, and it was beautiful. And one of my favorite parts was just spending time with my husband, getting to experience new things together, new foods, meet new people. We took a lot of tours and stuff, and I learned a lot overseas, which was really cool.
And now, Desiree Makia.
It's amazing to realize that Alzheimer's disease was discovered way back in 1906, and we still don't have any effective treatments yet. Alzheimer's is devastating to the individual and their families with symptoms such as memory loss and personality changes. Alzheimer's is characterized by the presence of proteins that aggregate together called plaques and tangles. Phase 3 clinical trials have successfully targeted these proteins for removal, yet have been unable to significantly slow AD progression or improve cognitive decline. So that's why neuroscientists like me are trying to figure out what we can do differently. The disease has a lot of different hypotheses, and recently we've been thinking that perhaps it begins with early disease progression. In addition to that, we might think that the disease begins with hyperactivity. And so what my research has done is that we can take a snapshot of brain circuits and how they're connected to one another. We do this by using viruses that directly label cells that are directly connected to one another. Think of the brain as like a computer, and these brain cells are like this bundle of wires. Perhaps when the brain is working normally, these bundles of wires and the connections between them are working at a steady rate. But now imagine if I break these wires, or the information that gets transmitted between them is way too fast. Perhaps that's what the Alzheimer's brain is doing. And so my research has been focusing on a specific site of the brain called the entorhinal cortex. This has already been a site known to degenerate early in Alzheimer's disease. My research has successfully identified a circuit to the entorhinal cortex that changes early in disease progression, and also the cells in this circuit seem to be driving circuit hyperactivity. So, in conclusion, what I can do today is actually inhibit these cells, bring it back down to a nice basal state so that the brain can run like it's supposed to. In conclusion, we need to always think about what we can do differently than what has been done before. I believe my research can help to detect Alzheimer's early on so that we can stop it in its tracks before the brain changes for good. If so, we have a real shot at helping millions of people. Thank you.
Thank you for that pitch and your incredible work doing this type of research. Where do you see either your work with this, or where do you see your career going from here?
Yeah, I feel like it's a golden question for every graduate student, because we're always like, I don't know, we'll see what comes up. But exactly. So, I mean, I love science so much, and I definitely want to be doing it for the rest of my life. I don't know what capacity that'll be quite yet, whether that be staying in academia or going off to another industry position, but definitely want to be doing science in some fashion.
Well, it seems like you're interested in a bunch of different ways, also with the outreach that you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like, the outreach projects that you're involved in?
Yeah, definitely. Outreach is one of the funnest things I think you can do in school, and the programs we have here at UCI have been just wonderful, especially the CNLM. I've been doing a lot of outreach to put on events that K through 12 students can come either to the campus or we go to them. During the pandemic, we did everything very virtually, but before that, we were able to go and show them real live brains. They could touch human brains, sheep brains, and we would talk about like how we even got to where we are today, because a lot of people don't know that you can do science for a living. So,
and you're helping them get access to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So in your package, you talked a little bit about the amazing travels you thankfully decided to go on right before.
Yes.
Was there a favorite place or experience that you enjoyed?
Everything was beautiful. I think we actually went to New Zealand as well, and I visited like the Hobbit Town, like in the Lord of the Rings movies. So that was just unreal.
I love it. Mm-hmm. It'll be up there on the list of places that I'll go to.
Definitely. Well, highly recommend.
I'll do it. Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Our next finalist is Shireen Kiadovam from the Henry Samueli School of Engineering. Let's take a couple minutes to get to know her.
Hi everybody, my name is Shireen Kiadovam and I'm a second-year master's student at UCI. I'm studying structural engineering in the civil and environmental engineering department. I was born and raised in Iran in a big family. I'm the youngest of 9. One thing that I really miss about home is my family and my friends. I was born in a city called Mashhad, and I love everything about it, especially Persian pastries, Persian food, which Mashhad has the best of the best. I have a personal philosophy, which is life is tough, but so are you. I always think about it, and it helps me push through and work harder and not give up. Poker is one of my favorite hobbies. I play poker every week for a minimum 1 hour. One thing that I really like about poker is the fact that it teaches me how to make the best decision in different scenarios and how to think rationally. I love playing poker. It's a competitive game and it's full of learning opportunities for me. Moving and living in the US was always a dream for me ever since I was a teenager. Soon after I graduated and finished my bachelor's degree, I moved to the US with the goal of getting my master's degree in engineering. It was always a dream for me, and I'm happy that finally I got it and I'm living my dream life right now. Growing up, I witnessed one of the most tragic earthquakes in Iran, in Bam. After that, I was always wanted to become an engineer, a structural engineer, to basically do my share and make sure that the structures that I design, or I'm a part of the design team, I'll make sure that they are stable and they are reliable. That basically motivated me to pursue this degree in engineering, and I'm doing it.
Shireen now joins us on stage for her Grad Slam pitch.
If you look at our cities, steel is everywhere. But as certain events like 9/11 have showed us, the use of 200,000 tons of steel in constructing the Twin Towers actually turned into a huge disadvantage. The fire started by the jet fuel led to temperatures of 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit, melted the steel, and caused the perimeter columns to bow invert, buckle, and eventually collapse. In order to continue to develop and build our cities, we also need to develop the materials that we use to build them. We need to actively look for stronger materials, which is the purpose of my research right now. Investigating the strength of new materials that we can use in construction. One possible alternative could be aerogel, a wonder material that I've been researching during my master's degree studies. Aerogel is a solid, ultra-lightweight material which was first created in 1931 by Samuel Kistler. Aerogels are made by taking out the moisture from a gel while maintaining the structure and size of the gel. The porous structure of the gel gives it a very low thermal conductivity, which is one of the most significant properties of this material. On top of that, some gels, depending on their components, they could be all the way up to 200 times stronger than steel while being only 4 times heavier than air. For example, graphene aerogel, which has a bridge-like structure, performs like a spring. The spring behavior of the material makes it strong and flexible. Having both strength and resilience simultaneously is a huge advantage that makes this material so special for construction purposes. Structural engineers also can consider this material while designing against earthquakes. But there's a problem here. We can't just start constructing whole buildings with graphene aerogel. The drying process is very expensive, but since this material is a potentially game-changing material, there are ways that we could utilize it in different stages of construction. For example, we can utilize it in, let's say, designing some areas in a structure that are highly impacted and very critical, like joints. I believe that utilizing aerogel in the construction industry will greatly elevate the safety of our future structures. Thank you.
Well done. I'm glad that you're investigating all of these types of materials, especially to make our buildings stronger. So when you're not doing this type of research, you talked a little bit about playing poker. Seems like you liked it. What got you into that?
Well, first when I was dating my husband, actually, I learned how to play poker from him. And he's a great poker player.
So you have some at-home competitions?
That's true.
Okay.
Yes, I was very interested to learn this game because I personally don't consider it as gambling. It actually teaches me how to think rationally and how to make the best decision in different situations. So I love that game because of that reason.
Sort of like if you're presented with a material, how can you best use it? Like you're doing in your work.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I like it. Using the skills in lots of different ways.
That's true.
So if you're not playing poker at home with your husband, is there a certain show or anything you both enjoy watching?
Yes, this is not a very trendy show, but yeah, we love to watch Dr. House, which is, again, it's about, problem solving and everything. It's just very interesting and fun.
I love it. So when you're not unwinding in certain ways, where do you see your career going from here?
That's a great question, like Desiree mentioned earlier. I think I'm going to experience working in the industry while I am very interested to meet new people who are actually interested in the same field and same same background as, like, for example, materials or anything related to my research, so they can somehow, support my research or somehow add to it. So yeah, that's my goal right now.
Well, we're going to wish you the very best of luck with it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next finalist is from the School of Education. Meet Dan Young.
Hi everyone, my name is Dan Young and I'm a 5th year PhD student in School of Education. So I actually have 2 homes. One home is in the United States with my husband, and the other home is in a small town in China called Suzhou, which is my hometown. The 2 places I consider as home, I think impact my research a lot because I have this bilingual background from both China and in the United States. And what's interesting is because my husband is from Germany, so I'm actually should be considered as trilingual. And that really inspired me to do research in language learning and bilingual education. In the most recent years, I got into golfing. because of my husband. It's been a hobby for him. And for me, he introduced me into golfing. One of the hobbies that I have is oil painting. Although I major in education, I actually spend some time, in my spare time to practice painting. And one of the pieces that I'm most proud of is a piece that I finished around 2 years ago. And in this picture, there's a couple taking a walk in a peaceful evening. So one of the food that I like the most is schnitzel with potato salad. It is a traditional German dish, which is, I believe, very famous and popular in Bavaria area in Germany. The person who introduced this dish to me is my husband, who is from Munich. I founded a nonprofit organization in 2021, and I also serve as a director for a student organization that is affiliated with this nonprofit at UC Irvine. Our mission is to improve educational equity in academia.
Now let's welcome Dan Dan to the Grad Slam stage.
As a child, it can be very overwhelming to start school in the English-speaking country if you don't speak English. And if the parents don't speak English either, the help they can provide can be very limited. That's the difficult situation faced by millions of immigrant families in the US. These children struggle to survive at school due to the language barrier. Many of them fall behind in reading and writing, sometimes never to catch up. What about using technology to help address this problem? There are hundreds of apps on the market that helps kids learn to read English. But almost without fail, these apps are designed for solitary use for children, ignoring years of research showing that children learn best when loving parents engages them in authentic dialogues about the story. Unfortunately, there's no app on the market that supports shared learning for new immigrant families. That's why I designed an interactive bilingual storybook app to support this learner population. We included customized multimedia features such as bilingual discussion prompts, where even non-English speaking parents can have fun and meaningful discussions with their children and provide scaffolding for story comprehension. Multimedia dictionary, where children can learn new English vocabulary with animated visual cues. And verbal interaction, where the cue story characters can talk so that children can learn English in the real context. For example, right here, the character of Little Oak has tears in his eyes and is sad. And the child can touch the screen and have the character talk to them saying, "I'm so sad." By examining user behaviors and experiences, we found that the supported features from the app created a unique three-way interaction between parent, child, and the app, which has shown to be highly beneficial for mutual learning, with kids comprehending the story much better when their parents are brought into the process. Parents have told us that the supported features from the app overcame their language barrier and empowered them to finally get engaged in their children's learning. That's really rewarding for me, having gone through all these difficulties as an English learner myself. Having a tool like this would have really helped. Parents should be a vital part of children's language and literacy learning process, regardless of their own language background. My goal is to develop a tool that helps children, especially those immigrant children who struggle at school, learn to read in the best way, with their parents by their side supporting them. By empowering families to learn together with a research-based tool, we're creating a positive learning environment that helps all our children to thrive and succeed. Thank you.
I love that you're doing this.
Thank you.
Now, I know you talked about wanting to do something with language and linguistics, but did you always see your career going to developing a storybook app?
So at the beginning, I've been a language teacher for years, and I'm always interested in researching, like second language acquisition, bilingual education. But not until in recent years that I realized, technology can be a really good tool that we, empower like parents in this bilingual learning for families, especially who are in English as a foreign language setting, and also for language minority families. So I think, in the past 3 years, I've been doing this research, and I love it a lot.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
And is this connected to the nonprofit that you talked about as well?
My nonprofit is not necessarily connected to my research. It's more about, so it's more about improving educational equity, especially for those students who are from, minority background and low SES families, and also international students. So what we do is that we connect professors with the students who share similar research interests, and we also organize a lot of online academic events, like we invite professors and also PhD students, postdoc students to share their stories, their experiences with undergraduate students who may become future researchers. Yeah, that's what we do.
In your spare time?
In my spare time, yeah.
Sure. Now, I think that all of these projects, including the painting and the nonprofit and the work that you do, are incredible. And thank you so much for sharing them with us tonight.
Thank you, Bree.
Thank you. It's time to meet our last finalist, Lauren Urban from the School of Biological Sciences.
Hi, my name is Lauren Irvine. I'm a fifth-year graduate student in the PhD program for microbiology and molecular genetics. My home is in Austin, Texas. I have a little Yorkie whose name is Princeton, and he actually cannot bark because his vocal cords are broken, so he's possibly the best small dog in the world, and I love him tremendously. When I think of Austin, I think of its motto, which is Keep Austin Weird. So my favorite place to go in Austin is actually this little boutique. It's called Lucy in Disguise. They have very legitimate costumes for anything you could imagine, from mermaids to Power Rangers to Victorian ballroom. And you can try on anything there. And the whole entire place is almost its own costume. It's almost like Halloween, but any day of the year. I wouldn't call myself a classic gamer, but I do like to play Fortnite, which is this very silly shooter game, basically. And you get to pick your avatar. I just like it because I like to aim, and I feel like Katniss because I get to use a bow and arrow. And I've actually gotten quite good at it, mostly as my kind of therapy release from any stress from grad school. I've taught third graders how to use magnets and what magnets are. I wrote this third grader lesson plan through this program called STEM Taught, but basically it was just about getting them excited about science, thinking about it in a different way, and finding creative ways to do hands-on experiments that would make them more excited about magnets. So in undergrad, I got really sick really quickly, and I actually had to go on multiple medical leaves until I got diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. The journey from going from a healthy 20-year-old to a very sick 22-year-old was really hard for me, and I hadn't experienced something that had so deeply prevented me physically from being able to do what I wanted to do. But I also think that going through that whole process gave me a lot of empathy and also inspired me in terms of realizing how powerful and impactful science can be in terms of transforming medicine and helping people in their everyday lives. And it's actually what inspired me to do research in academia, because I wanted to be able to contribute to that and to pay it back.
For the final time, let's hear Lauren Urban's Grad Slam pitch.
Hi. Antibiotics are one of the most powerful tools we have in medicine that save millions of lives every year. It's estimated that penicillin alone has saved more than 80 million lives. However, we now face a problem. Bacteria have evolved the ability to survive and resist treatments designed to kill them. These antibiotic-resistant infections are increasing and making most of our most commonly prescribed antibiotics completely useless. And this trend is becoming even more problematic with time. In order to combat the crisis of antibiotic resistance, some studies have found
that you can increase the efficiency of antibiotics by combining them with other drugs. When two drugs work better together than they do alone, this is called drug synergy. Unfortunately, it is very expensive and time-consuming to perform these drug synergy studies in the laboratory setting, which makes it not feasible to test all possible combinations of drugs and antibiotics together. My research studies how we can use computational models to predict how bacteria will respond to different combination treatments. I used publicly available sources of data from both clinical and experimental studies to train and test a model. The goal of the model is to identify drugs that can improve the efficiency of antibiotics based off their molecular properties. These molecular properties are like characteristics that describe each antibiotic. Other companies like Netflix, Google, and even Facebook use similar computational models to make predictions about you and your preferences based on your past actions and your demographics. In my model, I imagined a version of Netflix, but for antibiotics. In this case, I'm not using demographical information, I'm using the molecular properties of the antibiotics. And rather than a list of your favorite movies and recommendations, I have the publicly available and clinical experimental data. Oh, and I should mention that rather than making a recommendation about what TV show you should watch, my model will make recommendations about which drug test to actually test. You can imagine this with a dated but very relevant comparison. This is like trying to find a new favorite movie to watch by driving to a local Blockbuster and going in person versus opening Netflix and looking at your recommendations. These computational models are incredibly powerful. They not only allow us to understand patterns in the data, but they also allow us to make predictions about the unknown. More importantly, this data and information can be used to improve how we use antibiotics, the applications of antibiotics, and reduce the global burden associated with antibiotic-resistant infections. I think that this research is incredibly powerful and unique, and more importantly, it really relies on the basic science that we've already done for the past 100 years. It's a revolution and mixture of both Netflix and just microbiology, which are two of my favorite things. Thank you.
Well done. So with this new model and all of these new ideas that you have, where do you see your career going from here?
That's a very valid question. I wish I knew more precisely, but I really love data science, which is what basically I did to make these models. I think it's a very creative and useful way to use so much of the plethora of data that we have to make smart, informed decisions. And it's also just very robust. So I really love that part of it. I also am passionate about making the world a better place. And so I'm interested in public policy work. It is very different, but I mean, I jumped from a very different, undergraduate degree. So I think there's valuable information that you can take from most everything that you learn. And it really just matters how you apply it.
Absolutely. Well said. So I feel like I would be remiss to not ask you the binge watching questions since you mentioned Netflix.
Yeah.
What is maybe your current or favorite TV show of choice?
These are great questions as well. So one of my go-to favorites is New Girl. It's just, I can watch that on repeat.
Yep.
I also, though, watched Breaking Bad and The Wire, which I did not think I would like because they're a little bit more
Was it
gritty.
recommended for you?
It was, by most people I know.
Okay, good.
And I love them both. So yeah, I have quite a wide spread in terms of my interest, but
That's good.
Yeah.
That you should, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that you commented on in your package was Katniss and being able to shoot a bow and arrow. So maybe my final question for you is, if you had one superhero power, what would you pick and why?
Yeah, I have always thought that it would be very useful to be like, what is the person in X-Men who can transform their body? She wears blue all the time.
Mystique.
Mystique. That's the one I always thought, because you could get away with anything. You could be anyone.
I love it.
Yeah, and with things like flying, there's a lot of things you don't think about that could be going into your face. So I've thought of this question before.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's a fantastic answer. Well, I want to thank you for your work here tonight and sharing your research with us. It was a pleasure getting to know you better.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That concludes the competition portion of tonight's event. Let's give our finalists a round of applause for those truly outstanding pitches. We've now heard from our top 10 finalists who each gave us their own unique and very important pitch. And now it's the time for us to do the hard job of the long, important wait while all of the scores gets tabulated and added up. And we'll be waiting in high anticipation, and thankfully, we'll get through it together. And to help us through those moments, we're going to be joined by Dean Hayes and tonight's special guest, the 2020 UCI Grad Slam champion, Dr. Rebecca Riley.
Thank you so much, Bree, and thank you, Rebecca, for joining me here. So the last time we were here, you gave this amazing pitch, and I got to give you money, and it was really fun.
Yes.
How is it to be back?
Oh, it's amazing. It's weird. It's wonderful. I was pulling in the parking lot and, you know, Grad Slam 2020, it feels like yesterday and it feels like an eternity ago, a different lifetime. All of our lives have changed so much, but it's really gratifying to be back and it's an honor. Thank you for having me.
I think you summed up the fact that time has no meaning to any of us anymore very well, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
So last year you joined us virtually as a judge. So can you give our audience a little bit of a behind the scenes look? What are our judges doing right now?
Sure. So I really enjoyed being a judge. It was very fun as a former contestant to see the judging side of it all. And honestly, I thought that I was going to be able to come back with some kind of intel about the mysterious world behind the curtain of being a judge. And let me just tell you, it's pretty cut and dry. So there is a rubric on which all of our presenters are judged, which we shared at the beginning of the evening. And there's different criteria, for example, your capability at presenting, the meaningfulness of your research to impact broader society, how well you communicate to a layperson audience. But that's it. That's the rubric, and the judges are trained ahead of time, which is something that I found to be a bit of a comfort as a judge. You go through and you practice. But beyond that, besides a bit of subjectivity in assigning the scores, like I said, it's pretty cut and dry.
Well, thank you for reminding us what everyone's just been judged on and all of the impact to society and all of this importance of the research. And I think if there was ever a time that we want to be thinking about the impact of our research, it is after everything we have gone through the last 2 years.
So true.
So tell me a little bit about how life has been since before COVID. Like, what's one thing that has changed in your life?
Sure.
I mean,
well,
besides that you got your PhD.
What's one thing that hasn't changed in my life? All of our existences kind of turned upside down. And I know that I have shared with a few people in graduate division how February 28th, 2020 was kind of this marker in time. And that was the last big event in my life, was Grad Slam.
It was the last big event for me too.
So I always remember that time as a turning point, not only because of Grad Slam, but actually earlier in that day, I had given a presentation to my department about some research that I was interested in seeing if we could springboard off of. That wound up being the bulk of my PhD thesis. So February 28th was a really big day for me. And then 2 weeks later, as we know, life came to a screeching halt, basically. And like everyone else, I scrambled adjusting to a new normal. I did a 1.5 years of remote work for my PhD. I advanced to candidacy in September 2020. I defended in September 2021. That was a very exciting moment for me. And I tried to use my time as productively as possible. I know I shared back in 2020 that my life dream is to become an astronaut. So I took a little bit of time to further that goal. I took Russian language classes at UCI, and I spent quite a bit of time building up some flight hours with my private pilot's license.
Wow, I had no idea that you've been flying this last couple of years. That's amazing. So tell me, in your dream to be an astronaut or anything else, you haven't had this sort of regular 2 years after a Grad Slam win. How do you feel like the preparation that Bree and others gave you as part of Grad Slam has impacted what you've been doing and how things are going for you?
Sure. Well, you know, Dean Hayes, I think one of the most impactful parts about Grad Slam is that it enables you as a contestant to step outside of your lab, to step out of your steel-toed boots or your lab coat with some nasty chemical spill on it, and to come onto the stage and become something that you're not in your daily life. You become a storyteller, you become a connector, you become someone who gets to shine. And I think that that part of our personality is something that a lot of academics, as we go through our daily life, we have kind of forgotten. And when you sign up for graduate school, I think there's this understanding that you're making a deal with the devil, that you're relegating yourself to this academic lifestyle that is, most days you are toiling away in anonymity. And a lot of us feel like we maybe lose some of our personality, our style, our verve to our studies. And those things are really critical at the end of the day. You need to be a communicator. You need to be able to present your research. You need to remember why you're doing it and how to shine. And grad school reminds you how to do all those things.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I think so many of us get so into our research, and so this notion that we are storytellers, we are communicators first and foremost, is so wonderful. So I think we are ready.
Oh, wonderful.
To find out our winner and the rest of the results of our finalists. So thank you so much for joining me tonight, and back to Bree.
Thank you very much. Well, as you just heard, a lot has changed since we were last here in 2020. But one thing is for certain. We are really fortunate to have such great Grad Slam alumni like Rebecca who continue to engage with the program and return to share their experiences, their insight, and wisdom with our finalists and all of us year after year. And despite Rebecca not being able to participate in a hosted system-wide competition, we are really proud of her achievements, and she will always hold a special place in the growing constellation of UCI champions. And now, we're just moments away from learning who the 2022 UCI Grad Slam champion is. But first, let's go back to Dean Hayes on the main stage as she recognizes the accomplishments of this year's finalists.
Thank you, Bree. Tonight we all had the benefit of enjoying a live, in-person, sort of, Grad Slam competition once again. And in doing so, I think we all got to experience some of the best of what our graduate students here at UCI are producing. But make no mistake, while what you saw tonight was 3 minutes from each of our contestants, it has taken them months of preparation, an untold number of hours of work, practice, and sheer commitment from each of these amazing finalists to bring you their very best this evening. So I want to recognize each of tonight's finalists for competing with such excellence and their complete commitment to this process despite everything that we are experiencing tonight. So if you'd each step forward as I call your name. Audrey Edouard. Karma Rose Zavita. Farzana Khatun. Mohammed Twaha Ibrahim. Rachel Souza. Chi Song. Desiree Machia. Shirin Kianadovam. Dandan Yang. And Lauren Urban. Congratulations to each of you. You really did absolutely give us our best. I'm so impressed, and I am so glad not to be a judge because that was amazing. I don't know how they'll pick.
This certainly has been a competition made all the more amazing by these thrilling presentations by this group of finalists. And now, the time we've all been waiting for has finally arrived. The judges' scores have been tallied, and the final results are in. It's time to announce our 2022 UCI Grad Slam Winners Circle. Dean Hayes and Dr. Riley are going to share the news with us.
Thank you. Sorry, I just have to show off for a minute. I love the envelopes. Okay. It is my pleasure to announce the third runner-up in the 2022 UCI Grad Slam Finals, Desiree Machia. Congratulations. Do you want your card? I have your card. Okay. The second runner-up in the 2022 UCI Grad Slam Finals is Dandan Yang. I'm going to give you your card too because I don't know what else to do. Okay. And finally, the champion. I'm so excited. Are you excited? I'm super excited. Okay. Rachel Souza. Is that your name? Congratulations. Oh. We lost. Stay here? Yeah. Okay. Oh, we're doing pictures. Got it. Wow, I am always left so inspired and energized after this to see these three women standing here. It's amazing. The world around us has not stopped presenting us with hurdles, even while we've been competing tonight. But I do always feel that Grad Slam has a way of bringing forth these amazing people that give me hope for the future and show us how the research we do here at this university is truly going to change the world. So from the amazing work being undertaken by the next generation of our leaders across many different industries and the resilience of our students and their unyielding passion for solving some important problems in this world, the growth and the development that the few who chose to engage at this level willingly lean into just to become better and to achieve and be the storytellers that Rebecca told us about earlier. I just hope that all of you got a chance to enjoy this tonight as much as I did. And I hope that you feel even a small sense of the pride and the hope and the inspiration of what these courageous students brought us today and shared with us. We are reminded that our days are going to continue to be tested, but the future does really look bright with this group and all of the peers preparing to lead the way. And what's more, I know that there are many ways that you all could have spent your evening, or in some cases morning, with our international audience, and so many demands on our time these days. So I am honored that once a year you choose to spend some of it with us here at the Grad Slam Finals. And I want to take this opportunity to remind you to save the date. The UCI Grad Slam champion will compete in the UC system-wide competition May 6th, and you can watch it on the live stream, similar to what you saw here this evening. And our UCI champion will go up against the 9 other UC champions. in a battle for another round of cash prizes and also the coveted Slammy, which is the title of the UC Grad Slam champion. So please be sure to return your support for our champ. Place your vote for the People's Choice Award on May 6th for the UC system. And congratulations again to all of the finalists here tonight. You really are the beating heart of graduate education at UCI, and I am so proud and honored to be here with you this evening. You did such a wonderful job. Thank you again to our amazing judges for your tough work tonight, and to Rebecca Riley, our UCI Grad Slam champion from 2020, who joined us as our special guest this evening. We are so grateful for all of you, all of the hard work, all of the navigating through these steep field of competition, and I just appreciate all of your time and commitment to graduate education and the success of not just these students here tonight, but all of our students. So thank you again for joining us virtually this evening and being a vital member of our UCI graduate community. And finally, of course, I would be remiss to not thank our wonderful host, Bree McWhorter, for doing such a great job, not only hosting tonight, yes, thank you, Bree, but also supporting our finalists through this process, coaching them, and really bringing out the best in all of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Hayes. Thank you all. Congratulations. To everyone, our finalists, our winners, our judges, and all of you watching at home, thank you for joining us here tonight. From all of us here at the UCI Graduate Division, I want to wish you a wonderful evening wherever it may find you. It was truly my honor and pleasure to be your host tonight. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to reconvene on May 6th to cheer on and vote for our champion at the system-wide competition. To everyone, thank you and good night.